Hello there, and welcome to The Last of Us Part 2 spoiler discussion review thing. I'm going to be doing this with my friend Sam. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. I am. You have no idea how excited I am to talk about this. To be honest.
So before we begin, I want to state, and we both feel this way, we don't know each other's opinions, generally speaking, but we enjoyed the game. And I am personally...
speak for yourself.
Okay. I
don't know if I enjoyed it yet.
I believe you said you enjoyed it to many degrees, but I personally am going to separate my feelings on gameplay and story because of controversy and various things. Yeah, there's a lot to muddle through. There's things I agreed with, there's things that I didn't, and yeah. So, where do we want to begin?
Right. Okay. Well, I've got some easy starting places I think here.
Cool. Well, full
Right.
disclosure, spoilers. Let's go.
Yes. Yeah. There's no way you can talk about this and not spoil it.
I don't know how any non-spoiler review exists of this game.
No. Neither do I.
Okay.
Other than shit happens.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I mean that's basically as far as I can think to go without giving shit away. I'm glad you said about separating gameplay and story, because part of my thought process for this is that I separated it into three categories of things.
Fair enough.
And that's visuals, gameplay, and story.
Cool. Yep.
Visuals is a nice easy one.
Yep.
Fucking glorious, stunning.
Yeah.
I think if anybody says this game doesn't look like,
and let's not forget a very, very key thing, and I know it's technically not tied to visuals per se, but there is no loading screens at any point in this game, at all.
Now you say it.
The only times I can think of is when it's day 3, day 2. It's oh, okay,
yeah,
that was your loading screen. It was 4 seconds of black screen, and with music playing as well, so it wasn't silent, and then it had some text for about 20 seconds while it probably loads everything.
To be honest, 20 seconds I think is
Yes.
it's true.
Yeah.
Did you play on a regular PS4 or PS4
Regular. Okay,
I just as a quick
I want to ask you a question.
side note on this. I bought a PS4 Pro for this game.
Right, interesting.
I had a PS4 prior, and I've said for the when they announced Last of Us 2, I said I'll buy a PS4 Pro for that.
Right.
I wasn't expecting it to come out 6 months before the PS5.
Yes.
But I did it anyway.
Fair enough. Well, so how loud was your PS4?
It wasn't too loud. It was quite reasonable.
It was so unbelievably loud. It could melt glaciers. It was so loud, and the
That
heat
doesn't
of the back
surprise
of
me.
it was just it's ridiculous.
My old one would try and shit itself whenever I played God of War or something like that. It would try and take off.
Yeah, it is unbelievabally loud. Because my PS4 I've had since day one, and I'm praying so hard that it doesn't die before the PS5 comes out. Because at this point, I will be like, Sam, I beg you, can I borrow your PS4?
I've already given my old one away, unfortunately.
That's great. I'll borrow your PS4 Pro. That's thanks.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Thanks.
That's fine.
It's my job. But, yeah. So it's it's so loud. But no, you're right. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think really the only game that's comparable at this point is Red Dead 2.
Yes. Yeah, Red Dead 2 is a very, very pretty game. Though, what I will say, I found very funny, again, we've full spoilers, so who cares? At the end, or near the end, when you're on the farm, there's you sit on a tractor, and there's birds flying overhead, and they are the worst looking birds in the game. They're just some black dots, and they run at 12 frames. I'm just what happened to these birds? Everything else is exquisite, and these are so noticeably bad because everything else is perfect.
Now I'm wondering if I just missed that, or if the Pro does it better.
Maybe it's just I just found it really funny. Also, there were floating arrows in the middle of the farm. I was just I was just able to pick them up, and during the cutscenes, including the dance, there's just an arrow in Ellie's head. I'm just like, okay, I've broken the game. Cool. Where did this come from? So it was very funny.
I would like to see that.
It was.
That doesn't sound so good.
It was very entertaining. But yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely gorgeous game.
The facial animation, I think, is probably the most incredible thing about it. Like, I mean, it looks good. There are lots of games that have looked sort of decently good, but like the facial animation is just next level. Like, I immediately, as like it started playing, I was like, holy shit, the emotions on these characters' faces is like uncomfortably real.
Yeah, when you play a game, there's something that's noticeably wrong. It's kind of hard to describe what it actually is, but it just doesn't look right. Something is, whether it's a twinge or like just a way that their mouth actually moves. It's just something is, But this game, I didn't feel that. It felt real, which is quite incredible. Really, it is a feat of genius in that respect.
It is an absolute technical feat. I've got 3 points under visuals.
Mm-hmm.
The first was fucking stunning, nothing else to say, right?
Yeah.
The second one is facial animation was next level. And then my third and final point on visuals, I have nothing else to say about visuals in this game, but I discovered playing this game that clickers are both male and female. And you can tell this because they have actual todgers and nuns. I'm not even kidding.
Fascinating. I did not notice that. Because I was too scared. I was trying to kill them.
I didn't notice it while they were alive. It was mainly I would notice once they were dead and like face down, and you'd go around and loot again. And like I remember walking with my torch right up behind one, like right up his ass, and I was like, "Holy shit, he has a dick."
Oh, interesting.
And then I was like, I need to know what the women ones look like, and we managed to get one on its back, and it's got here little hairy vag. It's great.
Well then, okay.
Like my favorite thing to think about sometimes is that like somebody made that, a human being modelled a tiny little todger on that on a fucking clicker.
No, not just modelled, animated painfully and slowly for a long time.
Like gave it a little physics animation, little like balls bounce. I don't know if its balls actually bounce, but it does have a little dick, and that really. Cool. That really was a tiny detail that greatly pleased me.
I guess another thing is the game is just so disgusting. So there's a lot of moments that I freaked out just because I didn't like what I was looking at, and sometimes it was in how I had shot someone in the head. It looked very disgusting, and I didn't feel good about it. But that's just me, because I don't play these kind of games often.
I was going to say, is it primarily like the things that you do to people that's disgusting, that's upsetting, or the things that happen to you that are disgusting?
It's all of it. It freaked me out a little bit. We'll get to that more when we get to the gameplay.
Is the hospital basement. How many times did you die to that enormous, ridiculous thing?
The boss?
Yeah.
Many times.
Did you see the one where he fucking tears her arms off?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I saw every death. I think I died about 15 times, maybe more.
At this point, by the time we got there, I think I did from Abby's day 2. I just powered through the whole thing.
Right.
Like this was yesterday, so I was just like, I need this game to be over. I'm spending my life outside of playing this game, depressed and anxious. I need this to be finished.
Right.
So I just powered through it, and at this point, I died maybe 4 or 5 times. So I was just like, fuck this. I just turned the difficulty down.
What difficulty were you playing at normally?
I played almost all of it on moderate. It's like the normal difficulty, and then
same.
Changed it down to light, or it was like the one down from moderate.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. I played on moderate the whole way through, which I was quite proud of because I'm real bad at all of the types of genre this is. So again, we'll get to that. I guess we should move on to gameplay. Just that's a nice I don't dislike stealth. In fact, I love stealth games. And I don't dislike FPS games, or just shooting games in general, with notable exceptions. And I hate horror. Truly, I do. And in terms of stuff,
have you considered not playing this game?
Had I considered it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot. I was very tempted to not, but I wanted to play it because I wanted to play it for two reasons. One, because I had played the first one, and I enjoyed it. But more...
Remind me, when did you play the first one? Did you play it as it like near enough when it came out?
Yeah, pretty much when it came out. Yeah, when it came out. But I also wanted to. Actually, maybe it's a year or two after it came out. But anyway, I wanted to play this one because I knew how much you loved the first one, and I wanted to discuss it with you because it's something you would care about, and I wanted to talk to you about. Cause
you wanted to share in the torture.
Yeah, yes, I love you, man. I did this for you. So, but no,
I have no idea how much that means to me.
Good, best friends. Okay. But no, so like, in terms of stealth, I don't dislike stealth. I love stealth, but I'm incredibly shit at it. Same with shooting. I'm so bad at getting headshots. I'm so bad at doing things tactically, and I'm really bad. But I kept wanting to play this game. I was enjoying the gameplay that much. And I don't know how you feel about this. I think this game, in terms of its gameplay, is better in every way than the first game.
Huh. That's an interesting take that
you don't agree with at all.
So much more positively about it than the first one. See, like, one of my notes on this was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That, to me, it felt almost exactly the same.
Fascinating. I will tell you why I think it felt different. What I loved, and I can use two good examples of this as the Ellie section. So like you mentioned, the hospital in the basement, the hospital as Ellie is a good one. And a little bit, I can't remember if it's day one or day two, earlier on day two, but you're like in a housing structure. When midway through Jesse meets up with you. It's like that area. Those two sections are really good examples of what I mean. Now, it has been a long time since I played The Last of Us Part 1, so maybe I am just forgetting parts of it, but I feel like this game gave you infinitely more freedom in how you could do things. And,
okay, yes.
And by that I mean genuinely how wide every area is. Like, when I noticed it specifically when I was looting. When I was looting, I was like, whoa, there's a crack here I could have gone through to hide or to sneak up on someone, but I never noticed the first time. And, like, there were times where I died and it went really badly. I was like, right, I went that way this time, let's go this way. And then next time, let's go this way. And next time, let's go this way. And, like, every single time I learned different things about their patterns. I learned different things about what routes were open to me. And I also learned that I cannot fucking shoot in the head for shit with a suppressor on. So it didn't really help me that I was being stealthy. But, it was incredible how much freedom there is, just generally. It was staggering to me. Like, it genuinely blew my mind. And I feel like if you watched 100 different playthroughs, you could potentially get 100 different experiences.
That is, in all honesty, I don't know that I can necessarily rebuttal or agree, because the one thing that, in my experience, Naughty Dog is exceptionally good at is taking a really wide open space and making it look like you've got loads of options, and somehow still managing you to make the right choice the first time. Somehow they manage to guide you to the right place. Like, there's this thing that like, I'd be going a particular direction, because when I played this with my sister and her fiance. They both watched me play it. And I'd be going somewhere, and then I'd suddenly turn around and I'd just go a different way, and they'd be like, where are you going? That's the wrong way. And I'm like, I know. I feel the Naughty Dog direction, and I want to go a different way.
Right.
Because I want to make sure I got all the resources and all the optional things, if I can find them.
I see.
There is Naughty Dog. They have this really strong sort of affordance. I don't know how I don't know if it's just like I've played a lot of Naughty Dog games. I mean, it's like all sorts of subliminal things. Like, you see a yellow ledge, you have to climb it. Like, it's the Naughty Dog trademark ledge. Is the yellow ledge.
Fair enough.
So I do agree. I definitely think it felt more wide open. There were a few sections where it felt like that. I definitely wouldn't say that most of the game was like that, though.
No, I mean in those types of set pieces, though.
But yeah, there were definitely a few bits where I was like, holy shit, I can't actually tell if I'm just like free roaming right now.
Yes, well, I mean, Seattle Day 1 certainly was. You had an option to do things in different orders.
Yeah, that was the one that really got me. I think by the time we got to like Seattle Day 3 for Ellie and like for the rest of the game, I felt like a lot of that went away and it just became a linear thing.
Yeah, it certainly did because of, I presume, time and how massive in scope that was. But like, so Seattle Day 1, I assume you went to the bank, right? Down below, did where the shotgun was.
Yes, I got a shotgun, so I think so.
Yes, so you did. Yes, there's a bank vault basically, and there's a shotgun in it. The thing is, that's entirely optional. You could miss that, and I have no idea how you could possibly play this game without a shotgun. Like,
my guess would be there would probably be another opportunity to get one.
There isn't. That's the thing. I don't think so. Maybe they do have like, oh, you can pick it up from a different person.
Yeah, I reckon there's a decent... That's a very Naughty Dog thing to do, is to make you feel like you've discovered something and that this was the only way to have done it, but actually...
Well, similarly with your upgrade, like with the pills, how you upgrade things. And I don't like how you have to go through the chain. I kind of wish you could just choose what you wanted. But finding pills was so unbelievably satisfying. But yeah, like what I found is the magazines that were hidden. I am pretty sure there were no more than what I found, because I found the last one at the end for Ellie at the end of day 3, and I had been searching everywhere, with the exception of one safe that I couldn't find the combination for, and I accidentally went past the point of no return. I was like,
oh, me too. I think I know the one you're talking about. I was like, oh, I wonder if the answer to this safe is through this door, and I went, and then it closed the door behind me, and I couldn't get back through, and I was like, oh, guess I'm not opening that one.
I can't remember if I got that. It was another one. I went down a ledge, and I couldn't get back up. I was like, well, this was the wrong way. But yeah, so it was, so there was, that's the only place I could, outright think that I specifically missed stuff, because I was very thorough in what I looked for. And I'm sure I did miss things here and there.
Oh, 100% you would have done. Like, I've thought, playing the original, I played the original, I don't, a countless number of times. I fucking love that game. And there have been so many times where I played it, I've been like, oh, a new thing. Even though, so many times I've played it, I've been like, I'll just turn the difficulty down to easy and I'll just search everything, because I'm like, I just want to play the story this time.
Yeah.
And I'll have a nice, easy time of it and not have to stress about looking for all the stuff. And I still miss things.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's still things in that game that I haven't seen.
Probably, yeah. But you know what I mean. Like, I feel
definitely.
like with that, you actually...
Yeah, you were trying to look for them. You weren't just, blindly stumbling through the game.
Them. And maybe there is a leeway of 1 or 2, but that still means you could easily miss upgrade paths. And I think, the first game does it well as well, but what I love is how it's very much a scavenging game. And how whenever there's a moment of a brief moment of calm, and you get a couple of buildings where there's just a bunch of items to craft or bullets, and it's just like, this is so nice. Like, this is so satisfying. This feels great. I know it's gonna go wrong really quickly, and all of this is gonna go away, but this right here feels so nice, and it feels controlled, and it feels and I know it feels very placed and this is meant to happen, but it feels so good. And
I find myself hugely overshadowed that initial oh, look at all this stuff. The moment I see a table with 4 things on it, I'm like, oh, guess I've got an encounter in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That does break me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree. I like collecting all the things. I have a note here that I did find, I felt it more in this game, and I think it's only because it's been so long since the last one came out that and the last one was reasonably early on in the kind of game that it was. Obviously now a lot of games kind of try and emulate that sort of that thing that we got with the Uncharted and Last of Us. but I found that the resource management in this game, I found it quite restrictive.
Yes.
I found it a little bit. It's a little bit. And again, like I'm aware that something I really like about video games, like the things that really sort of get me as like, I like that, are tiny little like realisms that other games don't do. And I was constantly aware when I was collecting things, I was like, why is it that I've got 3 bottles of alcohol and I've got enough space in my backpack for 3 entire pouches of explosives, but I don't have any explosives? Why can't I have a 4th bottle of alcohol, please?
Yeah. The same with medkits. I'd find a full medkit that's been given to me. It's like, I have 3 already.
Yeah.
I would really like to carry this 4th one. Admittedly, a medkit is probably quite big, but also I would like it. I was hoping there would be a perk that would eventually allow me to upgrade it, and there just wasn't. I was like, oh, that's disappointing. There was one for health, though, and faster medkits, which was nice.
Yes, those are useful.
Yeah.
I think the only thing really there that I wish... And I get that Naughty Dog they kind of take away some of the control from the player because they don't want to over-encumber them with things to like deal with. So I understand that it makes it simpler to not have to worry too much about like dealing with resource management. But it would have been nice for you to basically have like a number of slots for things. And if you wanted to just exclusively have like bottles of alcohol and rags and just make health kits, you could have done that and just like not bother with any of the other stuff.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That's because I basically, the way I play it, particularly with like crafting and stuff, is I craft exclusively health kits until I'm full of health kits and I'm full of alcohol and rags, and then I will allow myself to use a single alcohol and a rag for something else like a Molotov, and I'll make 1 Molotov. And then when I get back to 3 again, I'll make a second Molotov. And then I get back to 3 again, I'll make a third Molotov. So I always know that I've got enough resources, or as many resources essentially as I can manage, to have more health kits, because I'm like, health kits is basically the most important resource of all. And the rest of them can get lost, because I can deal with any encounter if I need to do like some sort of melee fight, or like shoot somebody or sneak past them. But if I get shot and die, I don't have any health, I'm fucked.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and it constantly felt like I was having to manage. I felt like I was hitting a ceiling that didn't seem realistic because I had an entire backpack worth of space that wasn't being used for other things, or that was being used for things that I was like, I don't care about having these things, and I would happily ditch some pipe bombs for a health kit right now. But like I said, I get that they don't do that. So,
how distressing were the dogs for you?
Oh, fuck off!
Like,
I hate Naughty Dog.
Yeah,
they're the worst.
Yeah.
That was the worst part of the game. Well, no, that wasn't the worst part of the game. But that was a constant distress.
Yeah.
I imagine that would be even more distressing for you if you're not feeling particularly confident with like headshots and stuff, because the tactic I took was to headshot the dog first, and then its owner. Yeah.
I did the owner because the dog would be confused, sniffing its owner, and then I would stab it in the head.
Yeah, see, I didn't like the idea of the dogs being upset by its dead owner. I felt
horrible every single time. And the thing is, like, I hate that it's there, but in terms of a gameplay point of view, how they 100%. Operate is brilliant. You have to keep moving because they can sniff you, and that's genius in terms of gameplay. But it's fucking horrible, and I hated it every single time.
Yeah. I mean, Last of Us really is the definition of, like, I can't remember if I mentioned to you before we talked about this, because I've mentioned it to a couple of other people because they kept asking me. That I keep being asked by people whether I'm enjoying it while I was playing it, right. And I was like, enjoy really is the wrong word for Last of Us.
Yeah.
I am stressed and anxious all the time. And that's a difficult thing to say that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But I'm really hoping I'm going to get to the end and the whole thing would have been worth it. Which obviously we'll get to. We'll get to discussing whether or not that was something that came true. But the first one is always my example of it. That basically the first one is a traumatic experience from near enough the beginning. from the beginning
Yeah.
to right at the very end, but the entire journey that you go on throughout the first one makes all the awful shit not like enjoyable, but like the overall sort of experience is something that is memorable, and I think is an important thing to me. Like I am fond of a whole bunch of the bits of that game, like the respite that you get in it, and the character, like the relationship between Ellie and Joel is just one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes the whole game worth it, even though when I played it the first time I was stressed and anxious the whole time.
Yeah. And the thing is, it ends with hope, technically.
Yes.
Well, no, okay, hope is a strong word. It ends with hope on a smaller scale. On a large term basis, it really destroys that hope.
Yes.
But
yes,
like, you know
totally
what I mean?
agree.
Like, it ends on a somber note, but there is a slight elation that you can feel because they're both safe.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Beyond, because Last of Us 2 doesn't exist, or Part 2, it doesn't exist. You don't think it's ever going to exist, or you want to think it's never going to exist, or whatever. As far as you know, they're safe and they're happy until the day they die, which is a million years away. Like, whatever. Like, you know, that's how you can try and perceive it. This game takes that away from you. But
yeah, it dashed all of the hope that I had in the first one.
So, like, in terms of gameplay as well, there's a lot of different set pieces. In terms of stuff like you mentioned earlier with the hospital, down in the basement. The section. Oh, I fucking love the section down in like the underground train station where there's the clickers versus the wolves. That was fucking awesome. Genius.
I'm not gonna lie. I saw that happen. Like there was the clickers on the left and the dudes on the right, and I was like, I've got a fucking brick.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking genius.
Yeah.
No one in the whole world is as smart as me right now. And like every fucking review that I look at, they all talk about that moment and how they did that, and I'm like,
oh, that's great. Well, what's really funny with my attempt on that is I did that. I had a bottle instead of a brick, I think. And it worked out exactly as you probably imagine, except I try to switch weapon with the final clicker and it tears my head off. I'm like, oh, you fuck. That's the last one. So I'm like, right, I'll try this again. I'll do this the exact same way. I'll go to the place I was, I'll throw my brick in the same place, I'll do it at roughly the same timing, it's fine. Clicker goes after one of them. A second clicker comes up behind me, I didn't even see it, and I die. I'm just like, fuck! I was not okay in that moment. But yeah, that section, it's so fucking cool. There's loads of little sections like that which I truly love.
yeah, that was a good bit.
What was?
I do.
Oh, sorry, go.
I have two tiny gameplay nitpicks.
Okay.
I just want to quickly just breeze over because I think you'll either agree with me or you won't, and then that'll just be the end of that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So number one is obviously they carried over from the first game. The resources are like they do that shimmer thing, so you can see them.
Oh yeah.
Where they just like shimmer white across the surface of the thing, so you can you can look around the room, and if something shimmers, you're like, oh, there's a resource, right? That was the thing in the first one. And in the first one, the game was dark and dry, and that was fine. This game is fucking wet and shiny. Everything is fucking wet and shiny. It's raining all the fucking time, and everything, all the surfaces are specular. And I spent so many times going into the corner of the room being like, where was that thing?
Yep.
That was a thing. It shimmered.
Yep.
It shimmered. Where is it?
Yep.
Oh,
no, I fully agree. Yep.
It's just like a jar or something. I'm like, I can't have this jar. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I spent so much time doing it. I wish they just hadn't made them shimmer and they just had like a little circle to interact with, and when you got closer, it became a triangle. I would have much preferred that.
Yeah. Or something
like
as
the only way to do it. Yeah. Like I would have almost preferred it to be more difficult to see them.
Yeah.
Than do the shimmer, because it just meant that I spent so much time
it'd be more
poking around in corners.
It was harder to see them. So.
Yeah, and like I'd have been happy with that realism. I get that. Again, I understand. I think why they don't do that, but
it's that I know it's like an odd comparison, but it's Persona 4. It's not Persona 4, Persona 5. It's adding convenience even when you don't think you need it. Like you can do different things to see that a objective is available just by pressing a button on a different map, and it's like, okay, that is amazing. That is adding a lot of convenience. I can save anywhere that's not a dungeon, so if I screw up on this conversation with a character to boost our friendship, then I can just load immediately after, and it makes a difference, and that's great, because I haven't run into the game. Like, it's little things that add so much convenience, that, and it's such a difficult blend to get right.
And like, you've got to sort of put these things in. You've got to compensate for the average player, and I appreciate that. Probably most people aren't going to be bothered by that, and they're going to be helped by the fact that it shimmers and not annoyed by it. But it did. There were a number of times where it annoyed me. I was just like,
I was looking for stuff.
This winds me up.
Yeah. Number 2.
So yeah, I'm glad you agree with that. My second one, right, and I think I'll be really pleased if you agree with me on this, because you noticed it and you don't just agree with me about it in hindsight.
Go on.
But I hate that the safes don't work how safes work.
I've never opened a safe before, so go on.
So, and again, like, I'm no safe expert, right? Mm-hmm. So anybody who is a safe expert, feel free to correct me.
Okay.
But my understanding of how safe works, right, is that you have a number that you turn to in a direction, and then you have a number that you turn in the other direction, and then you turn back to another number, right? So you take the dial and you maybe turn it left to a 10, and then if you go past the 10 to 11, right, you've lost the code, right, because you've gone too far. You have to stop at the 10, and you have to go back to the correct number, and then back to the correct number. That's how it has to work, right? For the locking mechanism to essentially align. If you go past it, the locking mechanism unaligns, and the safe won't open.
I see.
Right, that's my understanding of how they work.
If that is true, that's very cool, actually.
It is cool. It is cool. As far as I know, like, that's how it works. And I've always been impressed with safes. I've always thought that was a cool way of locking things, right? And the thing that bothers me is that the UI to enter the code into the safes is 90% there, and just doesn't go the last 10% to make it actually accurate. That you scroll up to a number, and then you press X to enter it, and the next number is the same number that you're on, and then you shift that one to the next number, right? That's how that works, right? Yeah. But if you overshoot the number, then it doesn't fail the code. And I appreciate that that's probably because they didn't want to have a whole tutorial about how to open the safes for anyone who doesn't know that that's how you open a safe. But equally, it really wound me up.
Okay. Fair enough.
Every time I was I would deliberately go over one number, and then I'd turn to my sister and I'd go, this is going to work, and I fucking hate it.
Fair enough. I respect it. It doesn't bother me, but I respect it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I said, it's just like a tiny nip.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say about exploration, and I know that you haven't got this, or at least I'm pretty sure you haven't, because you don't have a trophy for it. It was in a random house somewhere. I found a precursor orb from Jak and Daxter, and it gave me a trophy. And it's just a nice metal precursor.
Nice little Easter egg.
It is a nice little Easter egg.
That is nice.
And there was also Jak 1, 2, and 3. I think it was in the Weed basement of the early game. It's the Jak 1, 2, and 3 collection is there next to a PS3. It's nice.
Oh, I did notice the PS3.
Yeah. There's a PS3 in Ellie's house, and then there's a PS3 in the Weed basement. There's Jak next to it. I think there's Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 as well. And I cannot remember what it was, but there was a Crash Bandicoot porn parody.
Oh.
What the fuck was it called? Dina mentions it. I need to look it up. Yeah, that's what it is. So it was in Eugene's smutty VHS collection. And there's the Smash Bandy's Cooch.
Oh no.
It's so good.
Who's responsible?
It's genius. It's so good. It's an amazing line. It's brilliant. It's so funny. It took me 30 seconds to get it. I was like, oh, that's fucking good. So I guess before we move off from gameplay, what would you say is the hardest part of the game?
Are you talking entirely technically in terms of skill?
Area, I guess. If there's any area in particular that really got you for a bit?
I think it probably would have had to be the fight in the bottom of the hospital.
Yeah,
Miss Abby with that
that's fair. Yeah.
enormous thing that I assume still remains unnamed. I don't think anybody named it. On the basis, like, I had to turn the difficulty down from that point, and then I kind of I forgot to turn it back up until quite a while later. So there could there was an encounter after that, I think, that went surprisingly well. And I got to the end of the counter and I was like, I did really well on that. There was like 10 dudes and I stealthed them all. That's quite rare. And I'm on easy.
Yeah.
It really took the wind out of my sails a little bit there. But, but yeah, I would say that bit, that really... I mean, again, like, it did
there
also...
There was a bit on the Ascension.
Was late,
so the Ascension to get to the hospital. Before the descent, the Ascension itself, there was a bit, I think it was on the Ascension at least, where it was like near the because I think it was just before the bridge itself, and there's loads of people and it's multi-layered and it's just like that fucking broke me for a bit. Like that really took me a while. There was also another bit, man, I can't remember where it was exactly. It was like a wolf. Was it as Abby or was it Ellie? We were alone, I think. I'm pretty sure we were alone. Maybe it was as Abby, and it was just a wolf base. And I was just like, all of them are. Maybe we were because it's a wolf. I don't even remember. But yeah, it just broke me for a bit. That took me ages. They just, there's so many of them. They kept seeing me. And I tried to snipe one of them. It was a suppressor, and I kept missing. I'm just like, how am I this?
There is nothing more depressing than using your like silent ammunition, whether it's from the bow or the silencer, and missing. It's so upsetting.
Yeah,
like
it was one time I remember. It was just like, right, I've got a silencer. I missed the first one. I was like, that's no problem. Next shot, fuck, the silencer's off. I've ran out. No. Yeah, that was great. It's funny. Moving on from that, favourite part of the game.
Favourite part of the game?
In terms of gameplay.
In terms of gameplay. Oh.
It is tough. There are a lot of really great moments.
See, I almost disagree with you there.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, that... I'm thinking my favourite moments in the game, as I'm thinking of them, basically all of them are story moments.
Right.
And none of them are really gameplay moments. And I'm like, okay, right, let's focus on the gameplay. What bits did I enjoy playing? And this ties in a little bit to a point that I'm likely to circle back to when we talk about the story.
I mean, you can talk about it now if you want.
Well, I can. I don't know. I feel like it might be worth just sort of briefly mentioning now and coming back to, sort of, because I think contextually it'll make more sense later. But I found a lot of the encounters too long.
Okay, interesting.
And it detracted, generally speaking, from my enjoyment of the gameplay itself. Because, I mean, let's be real. Like, the gameplay of Last of Us is essentially just hide from bad guys, kill bad guys.
Yeah.
Right. There's the action adventure Uncharted mode where everyone can see you and you're just shooting everyone. And then there's the stealth mode where you're trying not to see anyone and stealth everyone. Yeah. Stealth kill everyone. There's the two modes, and other than that, it's a walking simulator game. Really, with a bit of resource gathering and crafting. But I mean, essentially, you're just wandering around, not really having to worry about anything. But the moment there's an encounter, you're either shooting everyone to death or just stealth killing everyone. Are the two ways to go about it. And I think one of my primary complaints of this game is that it was too long. And it was too long because a lot of the gameplay parts were stretched out.
Right.
They felt stretched out without necessarily like directly benefiting character development or like furthering character relationships.
No, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument, and like I said, I'll circle back to it later on. But because a lot of it was long, it meant that there were several moments that like I think could have been really cool and memorable in like a holy shit, that was a great gameplay moment. But instead, what it did is I'd been so sort of beaten down and fatigued by all of the gameplay that I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered with this fucking thing.
I totally get where you're coming from with that, but it's quite interesting. I sort of, in many ways, felt the opposite, in respect that the fact that it was so long made it more intense, especially near the end. And when I messed up, if I did mess up, I felt horrible, but I also felt like I had control of the situation because I knew what to do. I knew where things were placed. I knew how to handle it, and it felt more manageable not having it be an unknown, so to speak. And it, like, the fact that it was so long, just it was really it made the world feel more real in a sense, because there would be that many. They wouldn't just have a couple of dudes patrolling this. They would have a huge fleet just making sure that nothing goes wrong. Because I mean, if one person shows up, in theory that's not a problem. I mean, obviously Ellie's unstoppable, but yeah, like if it's not an Ellie, then yeah, you're gonna take him out, no problem. Maybe one person might die, sorry, but you know, that's how it goes. But if infected show up, you need this many people just in case, and that makes it feel real to me, at least personally. But I totally see where you're coming from. I do understand what you mean.
Like, it's not that necessarily I don't think that the encounters were unrealistic, just that it just
of course.
It because it's the same gameplay loop over and over.
That's
there's not a huge amount of variation. It's like hide in room, search drawers, walk through door, jump scare from infected, or random dude with big axe. Like there were, it gets a little bit samey after a while. Like, I mean, again, I mean, there's an element of like, I've played, like, Naughty Dog games are inherent, like they're one of my favorite sort of subset, like they're one of my favorite genres. I find them easy to play, and I like the story. I like the characters, generally speaking. Sort of moral ambiguity of things like Nathan Drake murdering like 3,000 people to fucking steal a piece of treasure, or whatever. Like, I generally enjoy playing them. I don't find them too difficult, but it does mean that over time their design language, like I was saying about like the Naughty Dog direction, like how they kind of shepherd you in a way that you don't even necessarily know you're doing, and the trademark Naughty Dog yellow ledge, they do a similar thing that I noticed, where I could tell before I went through a door whether or not I was going to be jump scared on the other side of it. Because it's their design language is so strong and so consistent that it's like, I mean, like, one of I think there's more to it than just it being a door slightly ajar. But if the door is slightly open and at a fairly decent distance from it, you get the little circle to indicate that you can interact with it, and it's been a decent amount of time since you've had a jump scare, there's like a 90% chance you're going to go through that door, and the clicker on the other side is going to come at you, and you're going to have to bash square a bunch of times. So you kind of, a whole bunch of that stuff that should bring in variation for me, it didn't. And like, I would fully expect somebody who either hasn't played any Naughty Dog games before, or like Last of Us or Uncharted, or hasn't played them a huge amount, to not necessarily know that design language so well. So a whole bunch of those things that bring variation might seem more natural to somebody else, and maybe it's tainted me because I played the original Last of Us like so many times that now this game brought a whole bunch of things over, and it just felt like I was playing the same game a whole bunch.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So
yeah, I think for me, like we mentioned earlier, probably like the underground train section was incredible. I did
like the lighting in that.
Yes, the lighting,
that was really atmospheric.
Yeah, the anytime there's like a huge infected chase, that felt great. In hindsight, in the moment I was shitting myself. But yeah, like
Well, it's like it's a cool moment to have survived. It's not necessarily that it's fun while it's happening, but the sort of the euphoria you get when you successfully manage to do an encounter and you get to the end, you're like, holy shit, like I survived that. That's a good feeling. And so the whole thing sort of becomes, in hindsight, enjoyable.
I didn't do well in it, but I loved the mall. The mall was awesome.
Which bit was the mall?
Before you get the speedboat. Just at the speed. This is where you get the speedboat. Where there's like the multi-storied mall. And there's water as well, and you can sort of sneak around, and it's really cool. It was after I'd already triggered like the fact that they had seen me, and like it was a problem, and they was more just trying to survive this problem. Like when I was looking for loot after I finished it, I was just like, there is so many things I could have done differently here. There's so much water that I could have just gone in.
That is partly like I think it adds for a decent amount of replayability, but definitely the first time you play through the game, like I found I kept sort of rehashing the same techniques, which was often back myself into a corner through a doorway, wait in it, make enough noise that they know I'm here, they'll come and investigate, and then I'll strangle and stab them.
I didn't even make noise. Like I just tried to do it from a distance because I was too scared it would.
Yeah, the same thing works. That you can like shoot them from a distance, and then it will alert them to their position. You might take out one of them, and then a whole bunch of them will run over, and one of them will come through a door, and you'll kill him as he comes through the door, and then another one will come through the door.
That's a thing. It was a secret room as Ellie. It was day 3. I can't give you specifically where because I don't remember. But it was like. So you go to like the 2nd or 3rd floor of this building, and there's nothing in there. And I'm just like, I'm expecting there to be stuff, and I was just really confused. And I go in here, and there's nothing there. I was like, oh okay, and at the end of it, there's a crafting table. I was just like, oh sweet, okay, well that's nice. I'm gonna craft here, and then 4 members of the Wolf pull me off of the crafting table. I'm just like,
oh shit,
what the fuck? That's genius. And it turns out there is a door just before it that I believe is locked normally, but they just open it because they hear you and they just go for it. Admittedly they should have shot you from behind because I'm not looking, but they pull you and it's just like, that is genius design because like you're just like, I'm expecting something but there's nothing here. Okay, well, free crafting table, sweet, that's really handy. It really caught me off guard. And like I was cool. Like freaking out because I was like, okay, this is a problem. They're gonna swamp me. And I was just like, I got 2 headshots. Oh, that wall, they were moving. Oh, I felt great. I'm gonna win this one. Yes. Like the one time I actually get a decent headshot while they're moving. And it's like, this is what it's all about. This feels good.
Yeah. I guess like coming back to your question about like favorite moment, I think there are a whole bunch of tiny moments like that aren't necessarily memorable in like their own way. I mean, in that case, you've got one that's quite memorable.
Yeah.
But there are a whole bunch of moments where like it's quite satisfying to have like, I don't know, taken a particular route through a whole bunch of enemies and you've managed to like use your bow and arrow to kill like several of them quietly, and you've been really neat about the whole thing, and you got some headshots, and you're like, man, I'm fucking invincible. I'm really good at this. Yeah. Like that's a satisfying feeling. And I think that probably ultimately comes down to like favorite moments is probably like those slightly more organic moments that just happen because you played it well, versus it being inherently inventive, for me at least.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I agree. It's like you're sort of building your own story about your ability and stuff. So
I guess we should move
probably
on
get to
the story, which is
I do have a couple of gameplay notes that will
unbelievable.
come back for the story.
Okay. This is so unbelievably divisive. Like, it's what the Metacritic is, what, like a 94 for reviews and like 34 for people. It's so controversial. Actually, I'm going to write another note because I've just remembered one. But right, so there's a bunch of things that I want to touch on specifically, and I want to start with Dina and Ellie. There is a lot of hate because there's a lesbian relationship, and to all of you, fuck you. I hate you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how people could be that narrow-minded and dismissive. And it's infuriating to see such hate towards characters which actually have incredible chemistry throughout the game. I found.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I like Dean a lot.
Yeah, I really
like.
like
I wouldn't have necessarily gone as far as like incredible chemistry, but I like them. I like their relationship enough, and it improved over time.
Yeah,
and it seemed believable. It particularly feels believable in a world where there's like so few people, and so your opportunities for like romantic relationships are hugely limited. And so it's like, I like you, and we're going to make this work.
Yeah,
like I appreciate that kind of. It didn't feel like breaking for me that necessarily they weren't like perfect for each other and like soulmates or anything. They got along, and it's like, we're going to do this.
Yeah,
like, that's kind of how it felt to me.
Yeah.
They liked each other, and it just sort of it grew from there.
Yeah, and it felt really nice seeing how they connected. But what I think on the other side of the coin, and it was a tweet I saw, I can't remember who it was by, so I apologise, but it was that this woman got a text from, I think it was her cousin, basically, who was initially years prior dismissive about her lesbian relationship, and this cousin had played The Last of Us 2, and seeing their relationship grow made them realise what it's actually, what it's like and what it's about, and they apologised and said that they understand now, and that's really that's the kind of thing that I do like about. God, this game's story is. I don't know how to actually talk about it in fully positive lights at times. But stuff like that's actually really nice.
It's not straightforward, and like that's what I like about this story, is that it isn't easy. Like, it's not an easy to look at. Oh, look, here's a thing, and whoever wrote this was like, here's the lesson that we've decided the characters are going to learn. Here's the journey, and it's nice and clear.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Where it's like, take the ring to Mordor. There's an all powerful evil, and we must destroy it because he wants to take over the world. Right. That's nice and easy to kind of get behind and understand. Like, at all costs, you're going to do whatever you need to do to make that happen.
Yeah.
Like, and this isn't that. This is like much more complicated. Yeah. So like, it isn't all good stuff in it, if that makes sense.
Do you want to talk about the first major twist, or do you want to interject with something else first?
It depends. I'm assuming you mean Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to be honest, the fact that it's taken this long for us to get to talking about Joel properly is real testament to how desperately my brain is trying to avoid looking at this grief that has been forced upon me. That even now I'm like, maybe we can just do this entire discussion and not talk about Joel.
Okay.
Because I don't want to talk about him because it makes me really upset.
Right. Okay, so
I
can I ask a question before we go to that?
Yeah.
And like, do you hate Abby?
100%.
Okay. Now it's fascinating because I thought I was spoiled for this game, because I got a lot of comments early on when I streamed and uploaded it, that saying, and not my words, I can't stress this enough, not my words, quote unquote, this tranny bitch murders Joel and Ellie. And I got loads of comments saying that. Two things about that. Three things. One, tranny is very offensive. Don't use that term. It's so incredibly offensive. I hate that people are so narrow-minded. But in terms of actual facts about this, one, not transsexual. Abby is not trans.
No.
Two, does not kill Ellie. So I was really confused because I thought I'd been spoiled for these two things. It's like, no. So, like, the thing that really annoys me about how people respond to it is people respond to it in such a Abby is entirely in the wrong and Joel is an idiot and he went down like a bitch and blah blah blah. And like, one, how old is Joel?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be like
late 50s, 60s?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like, god damn, he fought hard, given the circumstances. But the thing that I don't understand is how people don't get that it's 4 years on. you see throughout the course of the first game that Joel is becoming more and more trusting of people because of the influence he's had meeting some people and being around Ellie. And at this point, it's 4 years on, where he's in a community with what I think seems to be like 100+ people who are welcoming and trusting, and his barriers are now down. That he would be willing to save Abby at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he did.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, my point being, it's like it's not.
Abby
like,
would be dead were it not for Joel.
Yeah, and also like my point being that like whenever they say, well, Joel wouldn't trust her, like why wouldn't he now? His barriers are down. He's not the same Joel. Just fact.
Yeah, I mean, also there comes a point where it's like, get eaten by zombies or take your chances with this random group in this house.
Yeah, exactly. That's
like the zombies are definitely going to kill you, right?
But
whereas the people in the house might not.
What I think is fascinating, and I guess for those who don't know and are just randomly listening, Abby kills Joel, tortures actually, for a long time. What I think is really interesting, and there are 2 points to this. So, it's very clear, even before that scene, that Abby is a Firefly. Like, there's a bunch of little lines.
I felt like I wasn't supposed to know, but it was really fucking obvious.
No, I think they were supposed to. I think it was supposed to be obvious. Like, I think it was supposed to be.
I assume that is the case.
Yeah, for people paying attention, you notice. For those, well, I guess it's a surprise.
Yeah. And realistically, like, you're playing a game, and if you played the first one, you know that the entire thing is basically trauma and death.
Yeah. And
random character turns up and is looking for, like, anonymous him who lives there. Yeah. And you're like, definitely Joel.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because it's just... If we had played as Abby throughout the entire first game, just hypothetically, what it would be is the story of how my dad and all of his friends got slaughtered by this person who just showed up one day. And I'm taking them out. I've found them, I'm taking them out. Obviously, that's not the story we get. But Joel, in the first game, because of that, is a villain. He saves Ellie for reasons, but selfish reasons.
Yeah, he's not morally clear of any of it.
No,
he did
absolutely.
Some really awful shit.
And neither is Abby, and neither is Ellie. Everyone in this game's universe is a horrible person.
Is morally compromised. Yeah, fundamentally, everyone has done really awful shit.
Yeah, so like, the blame cannot be put on Abby, much like it can't be put on Joel, much like it can't be put on Ellie. Like, no one is at fault. Everyone's just trying to get revenge on everyone in a big mosh pit of stupidity. And the only reason we feel bad about Joel and feel morally right, sort of, about the whole thing at the end of the first game is because we grew attached to them. And like, if
I don't know that I fully agree with that, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I and this is, I'm just going to quickly interject here. This was something that I remember saying to my sister as we started playing number 2. I remember saying that I like, I really, obviously, I think it's unlikely that we're ever going to have to live through the apocalypse, right? And we come out the other side and we live in some sort of post-apocalyptic world where there's hardly any humans left and we've got to fight to survive, right? I think that's unlikely to happen, right? But it's a real concern of mine that if that did happen, not that I would do awful shit, because obviously I'm going to do awful shit. Yeah. You've got to do awful shit to not die. But my concern slightly is that in order to survive, I like rules and I like justice, right? And to survive in a world like that, 100% I'm going to invent my own twisted sense of justice and I'm going to enforce that. Sort of, that's a like, what you end up doing is you end up doing sort of like weird mental gymnastics to justify a particular action. And immediately in this game, I was aware of the mental gymnastics I was doing to sort of deal with what happened and what my instinct was that I wanted to do in response to it. And it's the same thing with Joel at the end of the first one, that he did this thing, right, where he essentially damns humanity by saving Ellie for what is essentially his own selfish need.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think really that Joel saved Ellie because he wanted Ellie to live in an entirely selfless way. I think it is selfishly driven because he loved Ellie and didn't want to lose her. Yeah. Right? I think that's where that stems from, right? That knee-jerk reaction to kill those people and protect her, right? But my mental gymnastics to justify the fact that he did that is that nobody asked Ellie if she was happy to die for this cause. And the fact that she didn't, and she didn't give her consent, I think if they'd had a conversation where they'd sat down with Ellie, they'd wait for Ellie to wake up, and Joel and Ellie and everyone had been around, and Marlene had come in and said, look, we need to do an operation on you, but you're not going to survive it if we do it, but it will potentially save humanity. And Ellie had been like, well, I guess I have to do this. And Joel would have been like, this makes me really uncomfortable. I don't want this to happen. It would have been a really clear line that Ellie would have said, I want to do this. Yeah. And then Joel would have had to let it go. And if he hadn't, and he'd saved Ellie anyway, then that would be a huge immoral injustice. And that would have just been a really awful thing that he did. And if Ellie had said, I don't want to die, and the Fireflies had then tried to do it anyway, it would be a really clear justice that Joel was just protecting Ellie when she didn't want to do it. Right?
Yeah.
So, because she didn't get asked, you do the mental gymnastics that despite the fact that realistically Ellie would have wanted to do it and that Ellie would have sacrificed herself for it, because she didn't get asked, we're going to save her anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the kind of mental gymnastics that I'm talking about when I say that like it isn't as clear cut.
Yeah, no, fair
in that sense. Like it's at least in my opinion. Like that's my sort of my reaction to it. And I think a lot of people do that mental gymnastics without necessarily even knowing they're doing it.
And I think there's also going to be some people who are on the other side of the coin who think it's like, no, this is wrong, you damned humanity. This is Joel is outright the bad guy. Anyway, as we mentioned before, I think everyone is the bad guy, really. Like, there is no winner, there is no loser. It's just the way it is. But what I think is really interesting, if you are to associate Abby as the quote-unquote villain, there are very few games or even stories that gives you the opportunity to witness so many impactful scenes happen as the hero and then play them as the villain. And you shift that perspective.
And I'm assuming that your take on this is that this is a positive thing and you enjoyed this part of the game.
I liked playing as Abby because I liked learning about her and seeing what she had been through. Because it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
There are elements of it I didn't like. And obviously I didn't want Joel to die.
Yeah.
But it does drive the story forward. And narratively,
I think Joel did have to die.
Sense.
In all honesty, I think Joel had to die. From the moment they announced this game, I knew Joel was going to die. There was realistically no way that you can make the second game raise the stakes or keep the stakes the same without killing Joel, because you can't kill Ellie. It was clear that she was the main protagonist, and also she was saved, and if she dies, then essentially Joel's actions are rendered entirely pointless if she dies anyway. So from like a storytelling perspective, I think that would have been a really wasteful thing to do, would have been to kill Ellie. And so therefore Joel has to die.
Yeah.
Like if you'd had the second game and Ellie and Joel had made it out, I'd be like, man, these two have such like thick plot armor that if they make a third game, I'm expecting them to survive that too.
Yeah.
And that's not the place that you want to be. You don't, with The Last of Us, the whole tense thing is that you have no idea who's going to survive and when. So realistically, Joel had to die. I'll be honest, I really wasn't expecting him to die that early. I was, and to be like I don't know, I really solidly avoided a lot of discussion online about this game. So only in the last 24 hours have I been able to actually look up a whole bunch of the things that I wanted to look up. But obviously, the Naughty Dog trailers that they released 100% misled.
Yes, they did.
The audience in terms of what the story was going to be, because there was that bit where they had Joel grab Ellie and be like, "Did you think I was going to let you do this on your own?"
Actually, Jesse.
And that's not Joel.
Yeah, it's Jesse.
So from those trailers, I 100% thought Dina's going to die. Ellie's going to be really fucking pissed off about it. She's going to go and kill them. Joel's going to go with her, and Joel's going to die at the end.
What's also interesting...
That was what I thought was going to happen.
One of the earliest trailers, which is them at the dance kissing, is one of the final scenes of the game.
Yeah, I
And
did think
it's
that.
very... I know why they did it. It's because they needed moments of niceness amidst everything that goes on.
Yeah, just a few.
But narratively, I don't know if it hit. It felt so jarring.
Well,
And some of the scenes could have worked so nice earlier.
I agree that one of my most major things about this game is the order that the story was told in. And it isn't necessarily that you discover things in the wrong order. My main complaint about this game is that I had to play as Abby after what she did. Which, and I was talking to a friend of mine this morning about it, and he put it in an interesting way that basically, from a storytelling perspective, seeing Abby's story after she did what she did is really interesting, because you're seeing a character develop after having done this thing, and so you're trying to be sort of swayed to sympathize for this character who did this really awful thing to you. That feels so unforgivable. But the thing that was really, really constantly jarring for me was that I hated her and I wanted her to die. And so while I was playing as her, I would deliberately kill her.
Wow, okay.
Like, any opportunity that I had to, like, throw her off something, I wouldn't, like, relentlessly just keep throwing her off things. But, like, if there was an opportunity for a clicker to get her and she was low on health, I'd just be like, fucking take her. Like, I was really unable to sort of get into the role-playing place where I was pretending to be her, because she'd done this thing. And I think if it was a TV show, it would have been fine, right? Because you don't have to play as her. She's on rails. She's going to do the things that she's going to do. You're just kind of consuming what happens. But because you have to play as her, you as the player now have agency in her success. And I fundamentally didn't want her to succeed.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
Definitely initially.
I wanted her to succeed on the basis that I wanted to know where it was going. Because
obviously,
it was very clear that she did not kill Ellie.
Yes, I was thinking that it was unlikely she was going to kill Ellie.
Yeah.
But so obviously, like, I played the whole game, so I did have to play as Abby. I did have to further the plot, and that was. But essentially, most of the things that I had to do as Abby, I only did because if I didn't, the only alternative was to just stop playing the game.
So at no point did you warm to her?
It's not that I didn't necessarily warm to her, just at no point did I want to play as her.
Right, okay.
It was constant. There were so many moments where I was just like... It also, by the time we got to Abby, I was really starting to feel the fatigue of all of the stealth and combat encounters.
Yeah, fair.
And I had to be her for too long.
Yeah.
I think
when you finish as Ellie, that's about the length of the first game.
Yeah.
If not a little longer.
Yeah, so, and then you basically got to play an entire another game as a different character.
Yeah.
And I spent the whole time being like, I just want to go back to Ellie, right? I want to go back to these characters who I feel safe with, like, who there's, like, a family here that I care more about. And, like, there's a whole bunch of sort of, what's the word? Not analogies, but a whole bunch of, like, examples of ways that I think that this method of storytelling would have been improved. And I think, like, number one would be, as a standalone game, this is fine, right? The way that they went about it, right? If you have no previous attachment to Joel, and you have no previous attachment to Ellie or Abby, right? And you're just thrown into a game, and within the first hour of the game, you're introduced to Ellie, who you play as, and she's got this dad character, right? And then you play as this other character, Abby, and she turns up and she murders the dad of this character that you don't know, and you don't care too much about. You're like, you sympathize rather than empathize. So you kind of, or maybe the other way around, I can't remember. But you're like, I'm upset that you lost your dad, but I'm not personally emotionally invested in the fact that he died.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to then play as Abby and understand her story and where she came from. You might be like, why did she do that? What happened to her to make her want to do that to that guy? Right? You can be more sort of interested in that side of it. like, obviously, I mean, I'm not saying you can't be interested in it in the way that it was, but like for me personally, I think it would have given Abby much more power as a character to me if I didn't have a previous attachment with Ellie and Joel. But I did, and so it kept just coming back, and I just kept being kind of aware of the fact that I was playing as Abby, and that Abby had done this awful thing to Joel that I hadn't forgiven her for. And like, clearly this game is going in the direction of like, we're gonna sort of look at the circle of violence and revenge, and when does it stop? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, all of that sort of stuff. That's obviously where this story is what it's trying to talk about, right? So I'm like, clearly the message of this game is, you're making me play as Abby because you're trying to point out to me that she's a human being too, and she has her own story and her own fears and her own, like, all of her own life, right? And to just kill her is essentially equivalent to just killing Ellie, right? In terms of the amount of life that's like snubbed out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fascinating how many parallels Ellie and Abby have. Like, they are basically the same person, just under different circumstances.
Well, at a different time. One of them is just behind the other one.
Yes.
So I watched today. Do you know Dunkey? I'm assuming you know Dunkey.
Yes, I know Dunkey. I haven't seen any videos on Dunkey.
Okay. He did a Last of Us 2 review. And something that I think is quite accurate was his observation that Last of Us 1 is kind of, obviously it's Joel and Ellie's story, right? But in the story, Joel goes from being like hardened dude who's done shit to guy who cares about child, right? And in Last of Us 2, Abby is living Last of Us 1, and Ellie is living Uncharted 4. Where she's basically destroying all of her relationships with everybody that she knows in her ridiculous pursuit for this thing that she wants. And at the end of Last of Us 2, if there was a third one, she is going to then do Last of Us 1 as Joel. So in Last of Us 1, you've got Joel. In Last of Us 2, you've got Abby, who does Joel in Last of Us 1. And then if there's a Last of Us 3, Ellie, presumably, will do an Abby who's doing a Joel. If that makes sense. So it's kind of all circular. No, and like, I like that. I appreciate what it did. It ultimately, the thing that I didn't like about this game was playing as Abby.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm going to talk about a specific scene as Abby, because it's another controversial thing, and that's the sex scene. And it is controversial. I don't care either way. But it's controversial because Sony have not banned, censored Japanese games and RPGs and stuff for a lot less, like bikini stuff. They've just outright censored it and not included it, and they're really annoyed that people are annoyed, from what I understand at least. I might be wrong about part of this. That this scene is full nipple, and just like, okay, now it's fine because it's The Last of Us, and I assume it's probably because The Last of Us is not a Japanese game. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe it comes down to some sort of nudity furthering the story or not.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't take it away.
Gratuitous nudity. Care.
I don't know. I just don't really care.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I'll be honest. Like, it did make me a little bit uncomfortable.
You were watching it with your sister, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yes,
that didn't help.
Would do it.
But I mean, that doesn't. I mean, in all honesty, that doesn't. I don't think that's the main thing that makes me uncomfortable about it. Like, I've watched Game of Thrones with my family.
Yeah, but that wouldn't. It's not ideal.
No, obviously, like I'd rather. It would have been easier to watch that by myself. But I still, I don't know. Like, I mean, Owen's cheating. That makes me uncomfortable.
Yes, yeah.
It was kind of out of nowhere as well. I really didn't see that coming. It was just like, oh, I guess we're doing this now.
I saw it coming just because they were clearly still into each other. I personally saw that.
Yeah.
But, I guess at this point I should mention, or we should talk about, characters being fairly underdeveloped. Characters like Jesse was kind of underdeveloped.
Well, you've only got so much time.
Yeah, I think that's another general complaint. But what I will say about that is one of my favorite parts of the game, and also the first Last of Us, is the conversations that I had between actual like cutscenes or like story beats. Like it's like when it's just you walking and there's nothing really going on, they're just talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's it's really nice to see each character connect, minor or major, because it's exquisitely done. Like you really do see the bond that they have had. You may not be able to witness all that bond or be able to understand it fully, but you certainly see that it's there. And it's in the way
character building, isn't it?
Yeah, it's expertly done. I really like that.
Me too. I do every single optional dialogue that I saw. I went for.
Yeah.
I never like left one hanging. I was like, I must hear all of the dialogue. Like even between, like to be clear, I hated playing as Abby, but I didn't hate her story. Like I liked her character development with Lev. I did find her switcheroo from being I will murder all of the scars to I will now protect these scars and murder my own people and she switched on this within like the space of 2 days. I found that a little bit sharp. But
about the before we talk about Yara and Lev, her name was Yara, right?
Oh, I honestly can't remember. I think so.
I love that the wolves had a full civilization in a stadium. That was really cool to see. I loved seeing that. It kind of blew me away because it's a genius place to build life. Because it's pretty heavily fortified, with exception to a couple places, and you probably have guards on all the time, just in case.
Yeah, it was a cool idea.
It's on their part. That's brilliant. Like that's like again. I highly doubt we'd ever have a post-apocalyptic scenario. Pray it never happens. But that's where I'm going. Like finding a stadium, a really big one. Like that's the place. It will do. Build a farm life and plants and just everything and vegetables, and you've got an endless supply if you've got a community. Like that's gonna work. As long as no one betrays each other and whatnot, that will do it. But yeah, Yara and Lev, I really liked them.
Me too.
I loved their characters.
I thought they were given a decent amount of time.
Yeah, and was so unbelievably sad when Yara died.
Yeah, that was shocking.
But
I thought she would have a decent amount of sort of plot protection, having already lost her arm.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, she's been through it.
Yeah,
she's probably making it out.
Yeah, and
then she didn't.
Yeah, but she did take out Isaac, and it was the most badass way that she could have possibly died. Yeah. She is an absolute hero.
Are we sure that 100% she did take him out?
Oh, yeah.
Like the whole thing was such a blur. I was like, I'm not even sure where he got shot.
I thought it got him straight in the face. I might be wrong, but I thought he was very dead. Like, so she was an absolute hero. And then there's Lev, and I want to talk about this very briefly and not really weigh in on it. I guess so. Lev is a trans male, and the game does put him through a lot, which is not ideal for a trans character to be portrayed. But the thing that people are very upset about is that Lev is dead named. Dead name being a term for revealing their past identity without their consent. When it happens, it's by a member of the Scars, and when it comes up, actually, it's treated with a lot of respect by Abby. She's basically like, "Do you want to talk about it?" And Lev says no, and she drops it, and that's actually quite nice. But the game actually including dead naming is quite a hurtful thing to the community, as I understand it, and that isn't okay. You could have just not include. The problem with the dead naming leads to the fact that Lev is trans, but it's still
Lev's dead named by
by
the enemies trying to kill him, right?
Yes. So it is handled with respect by the people who you're playing as. So in that respect, it's good, but it's still not. It's still very hurtful, and it's kind of out of nowhere. And if you don't know it's coming, and you are part of that community, that would really, really shock you. But I don't really want to weigh into it because I am, unfortunately, very ignorant to the situation and the community as a whole, because I am
perhaps ignorant is the wrong word. More uninformed.
Yeah, uninformed. Yeah, I want to.
Because ignorant implies that you don't care.
Yes, no,
to me at least.
That's true. I do care, absolutely. I just don't know. I'm not trans, and I to my knowledge, I don't think I know anyone who is. So I'm not gonna say what is or isn't right, because I flat out just don't know, unfortunately. But I do understand where people are coming from on this one, and it's, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Another thing that I guess should be brought up is the developers have been traumatized throughout this development through burnout. Apparently, 70% of staff quit.
Wow.
Which is an insanely high number.
Guess this is the last Naughty Dog game then. It really is The Last of Us.
Yeah. That's so many people.
There's a lot.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I have read a few articles recently about the sort of Naughty Dog like burnout and like their sort of attitude to crunch, and it doesn't seem the best. No. But it is unfortunately what you get when you get a particularly focused group of people trying to make something exceptional, and you're also prioritized to make it because you need to make money.
Yeah,
like those two things lead to burnout. You can't. I mean, it would have been nice to think that Sony would be giving Naughty Dog enough money at this point to just release it when it's ready, but I guess they can't be CD Projekt Red under this. So,
yeah. So before we go to the final chapter, I guess, is there anything you want to mention about other parts of the game?
I guess just maybe a few of the things that I would have changed.
Go on.
In terms of how it was laid out, and obviously I'm aware that these changes require potentially rewriting entire sections of the story to make these changes fit, and obviously I'm no story writer, so I don't know exactly how this would be done, but to sort of combat the feeling that I had where I had to play as a character who I hated, who had killed Joel fairly immediately. Well, I say fairly immediately, but for a long time, and in terms of it was a couple of days that I was playing as Abby after she'd done that, and I still in a I'm not trying to be all oh, I've got PTSD, but the images of her doing bashing Joel's head in with a golf club is it's genuinely traumatic, and it does.
Oh, it's
even to now, thinking about it is an upsetting thought. The way that happened, it was traumatic and upsetting, and obviously that's the point.
Yeah.
That it's traumatic and upsetting, but the fact that I then had to play as her, which, to be clear, I think there's, particularly for this game, I think there's a really high consumption of streams of this game for the first time. There's a whole bunch of people who are watching it be played rather than playing it.
Yes.
I think primarily because people don't necessarily feel the need to play it because it's almost a movie. It's so story heavy that you don't necessarily need to play it to get the story and still feel like you enjoyed it. But I think the core thing, because I was talking with my sister about this, that she didn't feel like the sections where you play as Abby were nearly as difficult. And I think we kind of came to the conclusion that we reckon that's because I had to play it and she got to watch it. That she didn't have to take the actions to keep Abby alive or make her do various things, where I did. So there is a discrepancy there. So this isn't necessarily something that's comparable. If you watch this on stream, watch somebody else play it, you might not feel this way about it. I would be interested to know sort of a breakdown of who might feel this way compared to how whether they played it or whether they watched it. But my advice to Naughty Dog, if I'd been involved in the development process of this, would have been to play as Abby first before she killed Joel, and have her character development happen, and then have her do this unspeakable thing that you didn't necessarily see coming. I think then I would have sort of developed sort of a rapport with Abby that I was maybe nervous that she was going to kill somebody that I cared about because she wasn't spending time with Joel and Abby, and I was like, they're going to cross paths probably, and we're going to have a conflict. I hope she doesn't kill Joel or Abby, but I don't have any evidence to believe that she's going to currently, and then she does. Then it would be like this hideous betrayal, but I would have had a sort of a relationship with Abby that wouldn't have been tainted by the fact that she'd done it.
I think if they had done like a bit of Ellie, and then skipped forward to Abby day one, before Joel died, and did all of day one, maybe a shorter condensed version. So you see her in the civilization, you see them like her mingling with her friends and doing a mission or two or whatever, and it's pretty cool and whatnot. And then again, it is a condensed version, so you get to the aquarium easier and whatnot, or maybe you do the aquarium later, but like maybe midway through it goes to a flashback, and it does the flashback where it's like, hey, we got a lead, and then it skips forward to Ellie. It would be clear that they're in conjuncture, and it wouldn't also be a spoiler.
Yeah,
so
I mean, this is my other one. Is I've got kind of two notes that's either play as Abby first and have like her major section be before she kills Joel, whether it's in the future and then it flips back, or whether it's before she kills him chronologically and then she does it. However that works out, I don't care particularly. Like, write the story however you're going to write it. My other one is intersperse gameplay between Abby and Ellie, so that you switch between them a little bit more, rather than doing like the whole section is Ellie and then the whole section is Abby.
The problem with both of them is it's trying to get the shock value of you're now playing as Abby for half the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really feel like I got shocked. I feel like I just got kind of tortured really slowly. I mean, maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe they were just going for making me kind of want to hate playing this game. But I don't fundamentally think they wanted me to have an uncomfortable... Because, again, it's not that I hated the story. It's just that I hated playing it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And this really comes to fruition in the first confrontation between Abby and Ellie in the theatre.
Which
for
is
me,
a really cool boss fight.
That is a good boss fight, but I wish it had been the other way around. Again, that was another example of a whole bunch of occasions where I just let Ellie kill Abby.
Right.
Because I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't want to kill Abby. I do not want to fight her. I do not want to hurt Ellie.
Yeah, I also let Ellie kill Abby because I'm really shit at the game.
Yeah, I did also, die a whole bunch of times while trying not to die. Ellie was fucking diabolical. She is exceptionally good at seeing you around corners and shooting you before you have time to move.
Yeah. It's quite hard. It's a good fight, though.
The only thing that, from like a story perspective, I feel like that fight gained being Abby is that Ellie is fucking terrifying.
Yes.
And that is something that you wouldn't have got if you'd been playing as Ellie. So I appreciate that was something I guess I was granted.
Yes, that is true.
But I would have still... I think it was the wrong move having you play as Abby for that fight, because I just didn't have the agency to make it happen.
They could have instead started it as Abby and then switched back over to Ellie.
Yeah.
So you do like 2 rounds of each. Abby, Ellie, Abby, Ellie.
Yeah, like I would have taken that.
That would have been quite cool, because you would see both perspectives, and it would be actually quite a more varied fight because you're doing both.
Yeah, and you could have like a little bit of a physical tussle, and then the gun gets switched between one to the other, and then you play as the one without the gun.
I'm surprised they didn't do that, actually. It's quite a simple idea.
Yeah, like, this is what I mean. Like, there's a few places where I'm just like, this almost seems like this game was so written on committee that they lost perspective. And obviously, I know it's not written on committee, like, in quite that sense, but it just, I just really, that was the hardest bit of the game, and I hated it. Like, if I had to pick a piece of the game that really upset me, and not in like a I am upset because the story happened, but it had to happen this way. It was having to be Abby and have her fight Ellie and essentially win. That I was really concerned I was going to kill her. There was a point where I was like, I'm going to kill Ellie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't live with myself if I've done this.
Yeah.
If the game is going to make me do this, I'm going to turn it off and I'm not going to play it because I will not kill Ellie.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was worried that I might have to turn the game off really broke me out of the experience, and I was suddenly really aware of the fact that I was playing a game.
Interesting.
Rather than being involved in the story. And it really taints that whole bit for me. That like I can live with some of the other things. I can live with having to be forced through playing as Abby and having to live her life after Joel if I have to. But particularly that fight, I think that was the biggest mistake of the game. Personally.
Just quickly going back a smidge. I know it's not related to story, but it did just remind me for some reason of the ascent of the building and then falling off the bridge and doing the descent. Both ascent and descent in terms of gameplay were actually really damn cool.
Yeah,
they were really good sections.
Yeah, I've got no issue with a whole bunch of the bits of gameplay.
Oh no, I know. I just wanted to bring up that that section because actually
you were just thinking about it again, and you're like, "Damn, I'd play that again."
Yeah, like the descent section, it was genuinely nerve wracking because at times I didn't know where I needed to go, and it was like, can I jump this? Am I gonna die if I jump this? Like, is this okay? Like, and then there's just like there's a floor where there's a lot, and then there's a couple of floors where it's calm, and then there's a different type of enemy, and it's really laid out quite beautifully. It's really good design. Really,
it was I think again, like you say, like I appreciate sort of technically that it was a good bit, but I didn't enjoy it because I didn't fundamentally care about Abby surviving.
Yeah,
really. The only reason I had to care about Abby surviving was that I was like, I feel a little bit bad about Lev if Abby dies.
And Yara at that point, because you're going to get the medical supplies.
Yeah, true. Although I think Yara would have still made it, it just would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, probably.
But Lev would have been unlikely to make it.
Okay, so before we talk about the final part, knowing how the game plays out now, if you were to replay it somewhere down the line, would you enjoy the Abby sections a little more, do you think?
No, I think I would hate it just as much.
Fair enough.
I think it continues to be the same thing. Particularly if you play it from the beginning. Like, I appreciate the whole story and where it's trying to go and what it's trying to say, but I don't want to be Abby. And, like, I might feel differently about this, like, a year down the line. Like, when I've kind of got past the hideous trauma of all the things that happened in this game.
Also, for clarity, I don't know if we actually mentioned this, we've only just finished the game, like, 24 hours ago.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's still pretty fresh. Yeah.
I find it hard to imagine. I feel. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is a moral thing, and some people might not agree with me, and some people might. But I feel like there is a core difference between, sort of forgiving and forgetting. And I can get to a place where I'm like, I'm not going to kill Abby. Right, where the circle of violence needs to be ended. Right, and I'm happy that she didn't die. Right, or rather, I'm not necessarily happy that she didn't die, but I'm happy for her to not die.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I want to spend time with her.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously the whole premise is basically like forgiving other people isn't for them, it's for you. Right. That is like the core thing. That basically Ellie is so consumed by this hatred that she has, that she basically loses everything in the process.
Yeah.
Which is a powerful thing to do. I think the way it was told was good. I think sort of the way that the story panned out was effective. But like, if that was me, I'd be like, I can get to a place where I'm like, you can live. I'm not going to go out my way to kill you. I might even save your life and prevent you from dying. But I don't want... I'm not going to live in a house with you.
Yeah.
You know? Like, imagine living in a house with somebody who murdered murdered your dad.
Yeah.
Right? As much as you might be like, for my own benefit, I need to get to a place where I move past this and I stop being so angry about it. Right? That's the healthy thing to do. You're not going to live in a house with that man.
No.
Or woman. Right? That would be... No one's going to do that, right? Unless you're some sort of, I don't know, next level saint. Right? But I think realistically most human beings would expect that to not be something that you would do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what I was being forced to do. That I was being forced to live with the murderer of Joel. And I think that will continue to be true forever.
I guess that leads nicely into, I hate the final chapter because I hate that Ellie leaves Dina. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. And the reason I hate it is because it's very real. And
yeah.
I'm gonna
Okay. So to be clear, you're saying you hate it because you're like, I hate that it happened, but not necessarily that.
Oh no, I hate that it happened.
But not that like you hate the. I don't know. It's really difficult to articulate the difference between something that I hate that it happened, but I'm glad that it happened for the story. If that makes sense.
I'm not glad it happened.
But
I see why it happened, and I'm gonna have to say this in a way that I'm dancing around it because it's not about me. I will say about me, I've been depressed. I have lost memories through depression, and that is really not fun. I've made terrible mistakes whilst depressed, and I've just I've suffered, and I make my peace with that in a very just like I have to deal with it, whatever kind of way. I know someone who has been through a very, very traumatic experience, and it still affects them years later. And it's not something that you can just move on from. And that's why I see what Ellie did, like knowing, like witnessing outside in, seeing all of it. I get it. I see it. I notice the patterns. I understand it all, but I hate seeing it because I don't want to see Ellie go through it, and I don't want to see my friend go through it. And it's just it's absolutely terrible to
I guess that's kind of what I mean, that it's, I guess actually not. I mean, you kind of got it on the first try, really, that you hate that it happened, not because because it's too real, basically. Yeah. That it's realistic and sort of reasonably.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a story, and
also
once you
Tommy
go past
is an asshole. I hate Tommy because of what he said to Ellie. Like that's so unfair.
It is unfair. It is unfair. I don't think I hate Tommy for it. It is unfair. But I mean, like, you think Ellie's got it hard losing Joel? She knew him for 4 years. Tommy knew him for 40 years. 50. How old would they have been? 50, 60? Like 50, 60 of their years, they had each other. Before the outbreak, after the outbreak, they've been through so much shit, and his brother was murdered in front of him. Like, we don't even explore how hard that was for Tommy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and how after it happens, he seems calm,
yeah.
and he seems relatively collected about it.
That's actually a very good point. I didn't really actually think about that.
Like, it's what I mean. Like, it was unfair of him to say what he said.
Yeah.
Right, he was being selfish in that moment, but I don't blame him for being selfish, because I mean, fuck. I mean, he went after the girl who killed his brother, and she fucking like almost killed him again.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a rough time for Tommy.
Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, and he's also getting a divorce, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, so like it's a pretty unstable time for him.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
And like Dina's reaction to him is fair enough. Like,
yeah.
I think you have every reason to be angry with the fact that he said it.
Yeah.
But like, angry with him personally, I think isn't necessarily fair. And this is exactly what it comes down to when it comes to, like, Abby is the same thing, right? That Abby is no different from Tommy in that sense, that she had her dad, and her entire life she had her dad.
Yeah.
And then her dad was murdered, and she had to live with that, right?
Yeah.
And so she did what she did to Joel.
Yeah.
Which is like where it all kind of comes back around. That like the whole story is realistic, I think. Like, I don't feel like anybody, well, other than Abby's random turn from being Scar Killer to Scar Saver.
I mean, it wasn't really Scar Saver. You can take out Scars in that scene.
You can, yes, and you do. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, she just like abandons everything.
I think,
and she just switches real hard.
Yeah, Lev and Yara more than, because she's not attacking wolves until the island.
No.
She's just trying to save the kids because she feels bad for them, and she recognizes that they are just kids, and they're not.
I mean, I think she's still, like, to a certain degree, sort of motivated by her own selfish need for kind of redemption. She's looking for her own redemption rather than necessarily to have saved them personally. But again, like, I mean, that's why I'm not, like, just to be clear to anybody. I mean, I'm sure, like, realistically, if you're listening to this, then you've played the game, and if you haven't, then what the hell are you doing? But at the very end, Ellie doesn't kill Abby.
Yeah.
That she leaves Dina to go and kill Abby. She can't let it go. She goes through more ordeal where she's like stabbed by a tree. Really fucking Tomb Raider style.
I pulled one hell of a face when I saw that.
Yeah.
It reminded me very of Tomb Raider, but I did not like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very like, oh shit. So like Abby's been captured by like forced labour camp.
I was going to say, did it claim exactly what they were doing?
No, but it seemed to be a labour thing.
I wondered if at one point they were like cannibal or something.
That was my initial thought, but I was like, we can't be doing this a second time. Like, we've done cannibals.
Yeah.
If they do cannibals again, that's ridiculous. I think it's to do with like forced labour, and they force labour until they die, basically.
Yeah.
And Abby, in the meantime, has tried to escape with Lev, and these guys have like strung her up on a pole.
Yeah.
Ellie goes through, tries to find them, finds her on the pole, cuts them down. I thought, I was a little bit like, man, is she just going to walk away? Is she going to save them and walk away? Like, that would be a pretty powerful statement. And then she's fucking, no, I can't let it go. That fight was tense.
Yeah. It would have been more tense if I didn't know Abby's fighting style, because she's the exact same fighting style as all the big enemies. Every bigger person with a giant hammer, she has the exact same pattern. If she's if she's doing a massive attack with her right fist, it's just one strike forward, then attack her. If she's doing one with her left fist, at first she'll do two, and then go in her final phase she'll do 3, and then go for it. Like, it was exactly the same with all of them, and because I recognised that, I was like, right, this fight's quite easy. So it was a bit disappointing in that respect. I kind of wish it was a little bit different.
Yeah, although I mean, like, because it's a heavily scripted story game. It's like it could go anywhere. You could go through all that fight, and then you could be like, I fucking knifed you to shit, and then she fucking turns around and kills you anyway.
Yeah, I did think Ellie was going to die at one point.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, is it possible for Ellie to come back from this?
But
it was actually one of the most upsetting things about this, and I think it is credit to the fact that the story did justice to Abby in terms of providing her enough time for you to care enough about her that she was so thin.
Yes,
that was really upsetting.
Yeah, that was so surreal to see.
Yeah, that made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it made me feel really awful about. I was like, I wish this game would kind of give me a choice to walk away myself, rather than have Ellie make this choice. Yeah, for me to have some sort of input in how this is going to go. But I appreciate that obviously that's not what this game is about.
Yeah. Ultimately, Ellie goes back to the house. Dina's not there. All her stuff is in her painting room. And it ends with her playing guitar. That's literally the end of the game.
Yeah. Oh, she leaves, doesn't she? She leaves the house.
Well, she leaves the house, but that's like...
Yeah, and walks away, and then the game ends. Yeah.
It's depressing as hell.
It is fucking bleak as shit. The note that I was thinking about this morning, and I discussed with my sister about it, and like there are some things that I feel are more categorical, and some things that I feel are more personal preference. So things like agreeing with whether Joel should have died is personal preference. But for me, at least, I feel more categorical about the fact that Abby's story is undermined by having to play as a character that you don't want to play as. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't seem to feel that way about it, that you liked that. I mean, I wonder whether it's affected by... How many times have you played the first game?
Once.
And you played
ago.
it. Yeah, it was years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
I forgot to bring that up earlier. I thought about it, and then we talked about other stuff. Yeah, I don't have. I of course I care about Joel and Ellie, but I do not have the same kind of attachment as you or many other people who have played the game a couple times or even recently.
Yeah. I mean, I played it through from start to finish about a month ago.
And I mean, I remember you playing it like back to back a couple of times years ago, and like you were trying to go for every. Didn't you get the platinum in the end trophy?
No, I didn't. I got stuck somewhere on grounded difficulty, and I left it long enough that when I came back, I was shit enough at it. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this.
But yeah, like I remember you playing it quite a bit, and like I remember you streaming it, and you kept. I remember you like going back to do another playthrough every so often and mentioning it to me, and just like
I've probably played that game on average once a year. I probably play it annually.
Yeah,
at least. Like there might have been some gaps where it was a little bit longer, but like that game is really important to me.
Yeah.
And I'm heavily emotionally invested in the characters in it.
Yeah, and I of course I care about them, but I'm not.
I'm not trying to like. So it's like, oh, you don't care about Joel.
So it's very interesting. It's very your reaction to a bunch of stuff is going to be very much weighed on how invested you are. Like I really, for almost the entire game, I really, really held on to my hatred for Abby. Yeah.
Like I watched my sister and her fiance, both of them seemed to let go of that hatred much quicker than I did. I was really holding on to it.
I think I also had like a counter hatred that was sort of misplaced because I had been told on many comments, again, not my words, like that she was a tranny bitch who killed Joe and Ellie and whatnot. I was so angry at people who hated the fact that she was just a transgender person. She wasn't in the end. But the notion of it, I was so angry at people just hating a potential fact. But I was just like, no, I want to like who she is for who she is. Because,
I'm going to go out of my way to give her a chance.
Yeah, because like... And I'm sure there are a lot of people who hate Lev because he is transgendered, and that's sickening. I hate people who...
Yeah, I mean, if you think that, then just fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, just go fuck yourself.
It's horrible that we are in... that any minority has to suffer the way that they are suffering, and there is not enough representation of transgender people. But there are a couple of exceptions where I think it's actually really good. There's a transgendered superhero in Supergirl, and it's actually played by a transgendered actress, which is fantastic. That is on a show that's actually very popular. That is an amazing step forward. Massive kudos to that. That's really great. And it's that kind of stuff that needs to be more mainstream because it just... Yeah.
There was I think in Orange is the New Black as well.
I've not actually seen that. I really need to.
I watched the first season and I enjoyed the first season, and the second season was a bit too... it just didn't stick for me, the second season, and then I never carried on. But it did get quite a lot of seasons. And people really liked it. So.
No, I've heard really good things about it. I've just never got around to watching it. Much like I never got around to watching House of Cards, and then that became a thing that was off the table.
You can't watch that now.
So,
that's a shame.
Yeah, because again, like you mentioned really good things about it. I was just like, you know what?
It was great.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Sam's been mentioning it. I'm gonna watch it. And then like a day later, the news broke out. I was like, I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah, that's
it was really unfortunate timing.
Yeah, but yeah, Yeah, I thought the representation in this game was really good, and I mean, I I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to weigh in too much because I'm not nearly as informed as I would like to be on the topic. But as somebody who isn't very informed on the topic, I thought they made Lev's struggles. They made very relatable. Even as a non-transgender person, like I felt like I understood a bit of his struggle, and if that isn't progress, then I think that's at least a step in the right direction, even if they didn't necessarily hold, if they didn't deal with everything as appropriately as they should have done. Like I think you got to start somewhere, and any representation surely is positive, as long as you're not making it's not like Lev was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like Lev was a pure innocent soul.
Yeah.
Lev who we needed to protect essentially
throughout this game.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I think that's at least a good place to put representation, I think.
Yeah.
But obviously, we'll see if it stands the test of time and how, because I think there's a lot of things that you look at initially and you're like, oh man, that's really good that we had representation there, and it gets like props for representation, and then you watch it like 20 years later and you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's actually still not great what they did there. Now that we all understand better. But I think that's how we move forward. We move forward by understanding what we did wrong before and making mistakes.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have known that was as offensive as it's turned out to be were it not for this.
Yes, that's true.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that is actually very true.
That even though it was got wrong, that it has still informed me.
Yes, it's spread light on something that I didn't know was a problem.
Yeah,
which is really important to know. As a subject matter to learn about. It's very, very important that we get it right. And
I think it's important for us to be able to forgive people for getting it wrong as well. Because like I could have easily done something like that. Like I know there have been times previously I've not understood, and I'd still, I mean, even now I don't fully understand how to correctly address transgender people. I don't fully understand the correct way.
Transgendered or trans is acceptable, I believe.
Yeah.
And if I'm
I just mean in terms of like he and she.
I believe it's
and how to describe what. Now. Yeah. So this is something that I understand generally now.
Yes.
Or at least a lot better than I did before. But but there was a time when I didn't. Right, and I had to learn somehow, and I'm likely to have got it wrong. There are going to be times where I didn't understand, and I was trying to explain something or ask a question about something, and I'm going to have described it wrong.
Yeah.
And if whoever, I think we have to try and take the opportunity when you know more to inform people and not necessarily blame or attack people for getting it wrong.
Yes, because there are going to be people who, like you mentioned, who get it wrong and not maliciously, just purely because they were unaware, and that's okay if they're unaware. And you have that amazing gift to be able to teach them. If they
I would always want to be taught.
If they choose to ignore it, then that's their problem, and they're very much in the wrong. But if they're willing to listen and learn,
at that point you're being ignorant instead of misinformed or uninformed.
Yeah,
that would be my definition of ignorance.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But if you take the information I don't care.
Yeah,
that's
or
ignorance.
I want to maliciously throw it in your face and harm you, then that is just not okay. But overall, the game traumatized me.
Yeah, 100%.
It's an experience, one that you can.
It is very definitely an experience.
You can either choose to enjoy that experience to a point, because of various elements, and then not enjoy others, or you can choose to hate everything, because of whatever the subject matter may be and how it pertains to you. And anything is okay. But I think, as long as And hopefully through this video, if you have watched all the way through, and you're someone just wanting to look at how people feel and whatnot, hopefully you I don't know how to word it, but hopefully you realize we're good people who are not trying to harm anyone, or attack any groups or whatever. We just want to talk about how we felt playing it and what our experiences were, and hopefully through watching this you can understand our perspective on it, and if we are wrong on certain things, then absolutely tell us about it. Because there might be things we missed. There might be things behind the scenes of the game's creation that we just don't know about.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've literally followed none of it. Like, I've so heavily avoided anything with the words "Last of Us" in it. Like, all news leading up to it, I was like, I'm just going to play this game. I don't want to see anything just in case I get a spoiler.
Yeah.
That I managed to avoid all of the controversy.
Which is did you actually get spoiled for anything?
No.
That's incredible, by the way. Because the game got leaked a month before.
Yeah, I know. The moment I saw it happen, I've clicked on nothing Last of Us related since then.
I mean, I'm surprised you didn't even get spoiled just through a random thread talking about something else, and then they just mentioned The Last of Us or something.
No, there was the only time I thought I was going to get spoiled was there was a Donkey video where he was talking about spoilers, right. And I wasn't sure if he was going to directly reference The Last of Us spoilers. And at the point that it really tested the line, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to stop watching this video because I'm just not gonna risk it. That was the closest I think I got.
Yeah, because there was gameplay. I don't actually know specifically what was spoiled, but I think gameplay of Abby was spoiled.
Right. I thought I will now go and look it up later on.
And everyone was. I think that's probably where the whole trans thing originated, because she's so muscly.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, as she was introduced as a character, I wasn't 100%. But like, it wasn't immediately clear to me. But it's not going to upset me. Like, she's just a character.
Yeah, no, it's quite funny actually, because I was just like, when we started her day one, I was just like, how did she get so bulky? I want her workout regime. And as I say that, I'm walking in a corridor with a gym, a huge gym. I'm like, that would do it. That place is great. It was really funny.
Yeah.
I guess we'll end it here. Any final thoughts you want to leave behind? Or
I guess my final, because I realized I was going to ask you as we started this conversation whether or not you wanted to start with a one sentence overview of your opinion, your final verdict in a sentence, whether it was worth starting with that or ending with it. And I completely forgot to ask you whether or not you wanted to do it either way, so I guess I'll do it now. That my final verdict is that this game isn't perfect. By a long shot, there are a number of things in it that I wish could have been done a little bit differently. And if there isn't a third one, I think that will diminish this game. I think a third one would make this game better. I think the final piece of the circle would be at the end of this game I'm feeling particularly hopeless.
Yeah.
Where at the end of the first game there was just that tiny little bit of hope.
Yeah.
There was that tiny little bit of tangible hope. Like, obviously, I was talking to my sister about it, and she said that at the end of this one, she feels like there's hope at the end of this one because Ellie's learned.
Fascinating.
And that she's conquered this revenge, and she let it go.
I guess there's that, but she lost everything to get that.
She did. Personally,
that hurts.
The kind of hope that I would have been looking for, from this game that would have ended the game and made me feel, I think, would have given me almost exactly the same feeling that the first game did, minus my issues with the actual gameplay, is if she'd gone back to Jackson and she'd spoken to Dina, and Dina had said to Ellie what Ellie said to Joel, which is that I don't think I can forgive you, but I would like to try. And then the game ended there. I think if it had finished there, and they'd done something along that, just give me that tiny little bit of maybe she can rebuild.
Yeah.
And not have lost everything, and maybe she can recover. Maybe this doesn't have to be a permanent loss. I think that would have left me feeling much better. That it's not necessarily that she's going to get back with Dina and that's going to be fine and fixed.
Yeah, of course.
but just that
I mean,
there might be something there.
as someone who has made so many mistakes that I've like self-destructed a friendship, I like similarly to Ellie, but in obviously a very different way.
Well, I should hope so.
Yeah, yeah. No, I believe it or not, I did not kill a
You
bunch
didn't
of
murder
random
100,000 people.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, like the scenarios are completely different. I would do anything to change that. Because it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Or
not...
you would like to think that there's an opportunity for you to move past it.
Yeah, yeah. You'd hope. So like seeing it be an ending where everything was lost. It just didn't feel good. I didn't like that. But hey, you know what? That's fine. That's how it is. So interesting game. As I say, don't like horror. Don't like stealth. Well, I like stuff. You know what I mean? Every genre this game is, I'm not good at or don't like, and yet I enjoyed playing it for weird reasons. I don't know why. I don't know why I had fun with the actual gameplay. I don't know why. I shouldn't have.
Oh, it's not bad gameplay.
No.
There's nothing wrong with it. Like I've played a lot of that gameplay and it was just not the most exciting to me at that point.
Beat me down. I like how I kept playing it like at midnight, like an idiot. Like, oh, this is a good time to stream it. Late at night, when it's terrifying. Well, good.
Yeah, that's why I played mostly in the evening, sort of between 9 and like midnight, and we do like a few hours. And then last night I started at I think 7, and we just kept going until 3 in the morning because I was like, I think by 11 o'clock we were getting up to the end of day 3, Abby's day 3, and I was just like, I thought the game was over. And they go back to the farm and I'm like, oh man, at least we get this kind of respite at the end and we're going to get this nice little moment and the game's going to finish. And there was a point where I made a joke halfway through that section. I turned to myself and goes, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if Ellie was like, fuck this shit, I can't let it go, and fucked off and tried to kill her a second time, and we've got a whole load more game to play? And my sister was like, nah, I don't believe that's going to happen. That would really go against the lesson that I think she ought to have learned by now. I was like, whoops.
Wasn't that funny? That is funny. Oh god.
Like, because I just didn't really want. I was like, I don't want to let it go. I kind of still want Abby to die. But
are you glad that you didn't kill her in the end?
I think for the sake of my humanity, this does kind of slightly. I'm conscious that we're still going, and this conversation may never end because it's sort of a. Maybe this is something to come back to on a future discussion, but the one thing, I was listening to a podcast today about whether The Last of Us is actually a good game, the first one, and one of the main criticisms is there's this kind of jarring disconnect between the gameplay where you murder loads of people and the story where you're kind of morally trying to deal with the bad shit that you've done, past tense, not necessarily still currently doing, but like Joel's just running around murdering fuck tons of people. And if you technically take the gameplay as story, as like canon in the story, you get to the end when he kills the fireflies and it's like he's killed probably like 200 to 300 people to get here. Like, what's 10 more? Like it, and when you look at it that way, it really takes the sales out of what happened and the importance of it. And I'm kind of aware that like this game, it does focus on it a little bit more, but it's still like the story only talks about the fact that Ellie killed the main characters with names and character development. It doesn't talk about all of the wolves that she killed.
Well, you're talking about Benny died. Or Jerry or Derek or they all have names. They yelled them out to each other.
They do. And I appreciate that as like a gameplay thing to make you feel a bit more bad about it. But equally, it's totally not addressed.
Yeah.
Like, actually, Abby's upset that Ellie killed her friends, not that she killed 100 wolves.
Yeah, actually, there is one thing I will say that I've just thought about now, and it's actually really cool. It's when you're playing as Abby and you see Nora at the hospital. Like, she's leading you to the area where you're going to go and try and find supplies. And she she starts speaking, and then immediately is just like, oh wait, we need to go this way instead. And then says, anyway, as I was saying, and then repeats the line. I was just like, that was fucking slick. Like,
yeah,
just adding that little anyway, as I was saying, and then like that is nice. Like, that
have
is
you
really
you
nice
played God of
addition.
War, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of those. That the first time it happens, like I really, whenever characters are in the middle of dialogue, I have this really bad habit of not like continuing with anything. Like I won't press anything, I won't interact with anything until the dialogue is finished, because I'm like, what if the dialogue stops and I don't get to hear what they had to say? Particularly with what's his name? But the head that you wear on your bum. I can't remember his name.
Anyway,
whatever his name is, he tells us really fucking good stories. I love his stories, and I'm like, I really don't want to interrupt his stories when he's telling them. But what I quickly discovered by accident is that if you interrupt his story, he will later on, not even necessarily in like the same like dialogue moment. It's not like you'll press a thing and he'll be like, you interrupted me, I'll carry on with the story now, and carry on. Like, just later on in the game, like you can do an entire fucking story mission, and you come back and your kid is like, so you were telling us a story before about this and you got up to this point, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I did, and then carries on like from where you interrupted him. It is just the most perfect. I just love it. I love it. It is my favorite bit of the game.
Yeah, it's little touches like that, really subtle, but honestly, it probably takes a long time to set up.
100%. I don't even want to think about how long it takes to make that happen. Right, but that's what you get when you crunch, or you spend 20 years making a game.
But I guess we'll end it here at this.
Yeah, probably a good place.
Discussion.
Yeah, fucking hell. Wasn't meant to be that long.
Yeah. Oh well.
We'll have another one in a couple of weeks. We've thought about it more and more.
Depends on how we feel, I guess. But,
well, 100%. I'm going to be discussing with you probably for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. In a year when you play it again, I want to discuss it again.
Yeah. Please help me through my drama. Thank you for my 2-hour-long therapy session that I didn't have to pay for.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. That's absolutely fine.
I did literally. I said to my sister after this, I was like, I'm having a chat with Teal about it because I don't want to spend £45 to talk to my counsellor for an hour about it.
That's what I'm here for. Remember, I played this for you and YouTube, but mostly you. So,
I appreciate that, man. Genuinely, you have no idea.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this.
Yeah, I hope you managed to make it this far.
Yeah, if you have watched this far, well, let us know what you think of the game, and hopefully that. If
you'd like a gold star, please email me at seriously.don't-be-a-dick@gmail.com. That's the only Gmail account I can think of off the top of my head that you'd be able to email that isn't my personal one.
Cool.
And I'll send you a gold star.
Okay. Cool. Nice. Okay. Can I email that?
You can do that if you want. I think that's the Gmail account. I'll have to double check. But
if it's not, you're going to email a random person.
Yeah.
For a gold star.
But I'm pretty sure that's my account, so feel free.
Cool. Well, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.